Hi, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining the Islamic Mary podcast. In this season, we want to focus on Maryam in the Qur'an. And one of the aspects that scholars and exegetes, mufassirin, they noticed when they looked at Maryam in the Qur'an was how direct the Qur'an and the divine voice was to Maryam, and how the Quranic language is so precise and how it speaks directly to who she is and her goals and aspirations. So, one of the challenges of God and spirituality in my teaching and when I talk to students and community members is that they have this notion of God being distant and far. So, how do you, as a normal, average person, connect with the divine or transcendent? And at the same time, on the flip side, you have people and folks who have this sense, this feeling that God is very close and always with them. So you have this huge spectrum from people that feel God is absent in their lives to others who feel that God is ever present and everywhere. And you see this within the history of religion. During the time of the Prophet Muhammad, there was a concept of idolatry. And why do people create idols? For the reason they feel God is far, far away and unapproachable. And if you have this sense that God is unapproachable and distant, then you want to create idols that you can touch and you can feel, and you have the conception that God is within these idols and that he's actually close to you. You made these idols. They're in your house. They're in your community, and you can go to them and access the ever present. When we look at Maryam in the Quran, we see that there is this direct communication. And in the Quran in general and Islam, there is this idea that God speaks to humans. Now, there are different ways that God speaks to humans. First, there's this idea of visions, ru'ya in Arabic. And in the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad is described as having ru'ya bil haqq, that he has true visions. And he was able sometimes to see into the future. Another common way that God speaks to prophets and the righteous is through dreams. And we see this with Ibrahim, who has this dream in the Quran in contrast to Genesis and in the Bible, where he sees himself sacrificing his son. Inni ara fil manam anni adbahuk. That I see in my sleep this constant dream that I am slaughtering you. And then he asks his son, Fanzur mada tara. What do you think about this dream? And we see this with Joseph or Yusuf. In the beginning of that chapter in the Quran, Yusuf, he comes to his father, Yaqub, Jacob, and says, رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشَرَ كَوْكَبًا. He says, I see 11 planets, وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ, and I see the sun and the moon. رَأَيْتُهُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ. I see them all bowing down to me. So this idea that he saw in his sleep, that when he was trying to rest, God was speaking to these righteous individuals. Now, when we look at the chapter of Maryam and we look at the story of Maryam, we see that angels are actually speaking directly to her. And many commentators were astounded by this fact that Maryam had access to the divine voice and to divine messengers. So when you look at chapter 342 of Ali Imran, we see that the angels actually speak directly to Maryam. The angel said to Mary, Mary, God has chosen you and made you pure. He has truly chosen you above all women. Mary, be devout to your Lord. Prostrate yourself in worship. Bow down with those who pray. And when we look at the Arabic is very direct and profound. That it says, Inna Allah istafaki wa tahharaki wa istafaki ala nisa al-alamin. That in the Arabic, we see that there is this suffix of either ka or ki or kum, depending on who you're speaking to. And if you're speaking to a man and you're trying to have a possessive suffix, then you would say ka. This is your book, kitabuka. But if you're trying to say that this book is yours and you're speaking to a woman, you say kitabuki. And here it's explicit in this particular verse that Maryam is the one that's addressed. And you have three different examples of ki. اصطفاكِ وطهركِ واصطفاكِ على النساء العالمين. Now, when we look at this unique direct communication where the malaika, the angels, are coming to her and saying, "You have been chosen, and you've been purified, and you've been chosen above all women," we see a connection with other Quranic women. For instance, in this chapter of or Surah Al-Qasas of the stories, we see that the mother of Moses, Jochebed, in the biblical tradition, she's also has this unique connection with God, where God directly speaks to her and her concerns. So when we read that chapter, it says, "We inspired Moses' mother, saying, 'Suckle him, and then, when you fear for his safety, put him in the river. Do not be afraid and do not grieve, for we shall return him to you and make him a messenger.'" And the Arabic, once again, because of its unique construction, in English we say you, and you could be a man or a woman. But in Arabic, you either say anta or anti to talk to a man or a woman. So you have a second person address that can be either feminine or masculine. And as it says, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى أُمِّ مُوسَى أَنْ أَرْضِعِهِ. So it's clear here that the word wahi is used. So we revealed, we inspired her to nurse Moses. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. And once again, the Quran is very direct, and the inspiration is direct to her and says, if you fear anything about him, then throw him, literally throw him into the ocean. وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. And I love this aspect of the Quran where it engages the emotions of people. It's not simply a book of commandments or dictates, but it's actually speaking to her concerns, that she is afraid of her child. She's going to be sad when she is separated from him. And the Quran acknowledges this and speaks directly to her concerns. Inna ra'duhu ilayki وَجَعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And verily we're going to return him, and once again you hear the ilayki, to you, and make him among the messengers. So the story continues, and she puts Moses into the Nile. He starts floating, and of all places, he ends up where? He ends up in the Pharaoh's palace. And in the Quran, you have another mother, the foster mother. She picks him up, and she says to Pharaoh, "Do not kill him. He may be of use to us, or we may adopt him as a son." And then the divine voice introducts and says, they did not know, or they did not realize what they were doing. The next day, Moses' mother felt a void in her heart. And if we had not strengthened it, or to make her one of those who believe, she would have revealed everything about him. She would have told everyone in the town that I've lost a child. And she said to his sister, "Follow him." So she watched him from a distance without them knowing. We had ordained that he would refuse to feed from wet nurses. His sister approached them and said, "Shall I tell you about a household which could bring him up for you and take good care of him?" And then Moses returned Musa to his mother. And this verse says, "We restored him to his mother in this way, so that she might be comforted, not grieve, and know that God's promise is true, though most people do not understand." And the verse says, فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَى أُمِّهِ كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنَهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنَ وَلِتَعْلَمَ أَنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ. So the verse says that we return him to his mother, so her eyes would be comforted and she wouldn't be sad. So what's remarkable here is that this section in the Quran is really not about Moses or Musa. It's more about the mother and her feelings of sadness and grief. And she's worried about him and worried about his safety. But the divine voice comes and says, "Do not worry. We are going to take care and we will return your child to you." And God wanted her to know that the promise of God was true, but the majority of people do not know. So when we look at these two mothers, whether it's Maryam or the mother of Musa, Moses, Jochebed, is that we see that both of them are introduced in the Quran before their children. And they're also directly talked about as mothers. That Moses' mother is spoken in the Quran as a character in herself. She actually puts her child into the Nile River. She worries about him. She's proactive, sends her daughter to go follow Musa. And then finally, the child is returned back to her. And that God is truthful. And that's one of the morals and lessons of the story, is that he cares and is ever watching. And we see with both of these mothers as well, there is this direct communication, that there wasn't simply a dream, or there simply wasn't a male figure that's getting the revelation and communicates it to the woman, but rather both Maryam and the mother of Musa are told what to do and how God feels about them. And this is important for me because as a teacher, an educator, and as a parent, I become more interested in this idea of direct communication. And we have a tendency in our culture and our society sometimes to communicate about people. We talk about people to other people, to the people we feel close to. We may speak about others, but not really ever directly communicate our concerns, our frustrations, our hopes, and our fears. For my children, I may talk about them to my wife or to my sisters and say, oh, I'm worried about this one or that one, or I don't like what she does. And as an educator, I may talk about my students. Oh, I hate how they are texting in class, or how they are not focused as they used to be 10 years ago. And I may speak about the community that I'm part of and say, oh, this friend or that friend, I don't really like them as much as this one. But I've tried to, in my own personal life, to be more direct and actually speak to my students. And when they do something that I'm worried about, that I'm concerned, that I talk about my own emotions, my own fears. When I see my kids do something I don't like, sit down and talk to them, not in the sense of blaming or complaining, but the emotions that I'm feeling. And I think direct communication is important because it's connected to the idea of intimacy. That if someone is talking to you in a direct manner, even if they're upset or frustrated, they're showing in one particular way that they care about you, that they want something for you, and they want a better relationship. And we see in these verses that God in the Quran speaks directly to these women. The first example is telling Maryam that you're unique, you're special, you're not like everyone else, that God chose you and he purified you and elevated you among other people. And then we see an example of the mother of Moses, of Musa, that she's told directly what to do. She didn't know in this moment of fear that her son could be killed by Pharaoh, but she's directed, instructed, put him into the Nile. But then at the same time, don't be afraid. Don't be sad, because ultimately we're going to return him back to you. So there is this intimacy that develops between these Quranic figures and God, that God is watching over them, taking care of them, and knows how they feel in relationship, whether it's to their children or their community. And this is also important in terms of emotions. As we continue to speak about the Qur'anic Mary or Maryam in the chapter of Maryam, we'll see that there's not only a communication and a response, rather, there's also emotions. At one point, Maryam will say that I wish I had been forgotten. I wish I had died. This challenge is too difficult for me. And that there's this concept of chronic vulnerability, that the Quranic figures actually speak to the divine and speak about their weaknesses and how they need help and support in their daily lives. And this is one aspect that, as we move forward, we'll increasingly focus on, is how these feelings and emotions become manifest, whether they're in their hopes of having a child, whether it's returning back to their communities, whether it's the difficulty of having a child in labor, we'll see this consistent theme that of intimacy between God and Quranic figures, where God speaks to them and tells them what to do, but the figures themselves respond with their hopes, fears, and aspirations. Thanks once again for listening to the Islamic Mary podcast. Hopefully, you can be in touch with me by joining my newsletter, sending me an email about any thoughts and feedback. You can also visit my website, dryunusmirza.com, where you can see my research, blogs, and avenues for us to stay in touch. Thanks once again, and take care.